Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Grace of a Military Child in Life podcast. Military families are not like your traditional family. They are strong, brave, resilient, and some of the most incredible people I know. My name is Gracie, a U.S. Army brat, and I am your host. I am honored to be able to give military family members like myself a place for them to share their stories and experiences in the military life. Stay tuned for this week's guest.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Grace of a Military Child in Life. Today, I'm here with Kasie, who is an Army veteran and Army spouse. So welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hi. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for bringing me on today. I'm so excited to be able to be on your podcast so far. Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of start by giving us your backstory, what it's like being a military spouse, what it was like serving yourself, and whatever.
I have never really thought about joining the military. I went to college and I had some dreams and aspirations to be a prosecutor. And then I was like, hey, maybe I should join the Army and I could just do JAG and the military will pay for law school. And
don't you just love that?
I do love that. And so I just decided that I was already in college and I was like, you know what? I don't really want any student loans, right? Like I don't really want to have to pay for student loans. And I would like to earn, a place where I can get them paid for. So I started talking to a recruiter and I really wanted the military to be another option for me for some of the other bigger aspirations that I had. And so I signed up. I signed up. I didn't tell anybody that I was signing up. And even my dad.
To everyone.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And so I didn't even tell my dad. I told my dad eventually on Valentine's Day one year, and he was like, not real happy about that at all whatsoever. And I was like, well, newsflash, I've already signed everything. So it's happening. I am going. And so,
yes. And once you sign that contract, there is no way out. So
there is no turning back. And I feel like I live a life of there is always a story to tell. There is always a story to tell. So my adventure into the Army, because I joined the Army,
you picked the better branch, so
exactly. And I knew you would see it. I knew you'd see it that way. I appreciate it. So I had my mom take me to Montgomery, Alabama. So we lived in Mobile at the time, so those two cities are two hours apart. And my mom's taken me on the way up there. And I was like, you know what? I would like to stop at Cracker Barrel before we get there. Okay. Because I love Cracker Barrel, y'all. I love Cracker Barrel.
I don't know who doesn't. Like that is the Sunday morning, spot to go.
It is. It totally is. And even if you're traveling, that you're going to find one.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is the perfect road trip, stop, get out of the car, get a good meal.
Yeah.
You can get pancakes all day. So.
And sweet tea. I didn't know when I was going to have sweet tea again.
Yes, that's huge.
Oh yeah, it was. It meant a lot to me at that time. So we're sitting down at Cracker Barrel and I am just not feeling well at all whatsoever. And I'm like, what is this? Is this a nervous thing? What's happening? And so then I thought to myself, okay, well, maybe I should just drink some more sweet tea. And so
I'm sure that was helping so much.
It sounded like a great idea at the time. And so anyways, I started putting my hand on my back and where my back was hurting. And I was like, what is this nonsense? I could not figure it out. So it was hurting so bad that I ended up in the back of the truck in the fetal position. I didn't know what was happening. So, and this is the day that my mom is going to drop me off at MEPS. And you know what MEPS is?
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is not a fun place to be.
No. And so I'm like, oh gosh. Okay. So my mom takes me to urgent care and they look at me and they're like, listen here, we don't even have to x-ray you. We can already tell right now that you got a kidney stone by the way you're holding the area you're holding yourself. They're like, you got a kidney stone. And I was like, okay. And so I called a friend of mine after that had already been through the military and MEPS and all that. And they said, hey, if you say something, they are not going to ship you off. And I was like, okay, all right, Mom, you're just going to drop me off. I'm not going to say anything until I get to my location. And so,
oh my gosh.
I
what
know.
a way to join. Like, oh my gosh.
I'm telling you, there is always a story. And so
that is called resiliency right there.
Listen, I feel like I'm a real tough person, and that solidified it. So I get to MEPS, and that whole night, like I'm like in the fetal position in the bed crying, and my best friend actually joined with me. I probably didn't tell you that, but my best friend
awesome.
joined with me at the same time, which was really nice to have her there with me, you know.
Yeah.
And so then the next day they ship us off, and I am like dying. And we get to the I was at Fort Leonard Wood. So we get to Fort Leonard Wood, you know, in the middle of the night. That's when everybody gets there.
Right.
Know? And they
or
get us
lost in the woods.
Yes. And and that's exactly what it was. I looked like I was lost in the woods.
Yes.
And so we get there, and, you know, for a couple of days, I didn't say anything to anybody because I was so terrified that they were going to send me back home. And so I was like, you know what? And I don't recommend this to anybody. If you have a kidney stone, get checked out. Okay. I feel like I need to say that. And so,
do not ship off to basic training.
I don't recommend it. It could have not been the greatest idea, but at the time I was not letting anything stop me. I was going. And so when I finally got through all the in processing, which you'll find out soon, and you go through the processing, which is like a week, and I finally get to the unit that I was going to be in, or I can't remember what it's called, but you know, where you start all of your basic training, like day one, I finally, I raised my hand and I said, y'all, I've got to go to sick call because I have had a kidney stone for the last week.
And it's still here.
They were like, what? I was like, listen, I was not going to get shipped back home. There was not going to happen.
Yeah, for real. Oh my gosh. I cannot imagine that.
Now, you're not going to have a story like that, but you're going to have your own stories.
Well, and I hope I don't have a story like that.
Maybe not like that. Yeah, maybe not like that. Maybe some other funny stuff. One thing I will advise you not to do, or anybody to do that's listening in, nobody told me to wear tennis shoes showing up to basic training. I wore knee-high boots. That was not the
think that was like a smart idea.
I don't know what I was thinking. I have no idea, but I stood out like a sore thumb with my PT gear on and knee-high boots.
Because they don't give you didn't get your shoes yet. So,
no.
Oh my gosh. That is insane. And you're having to like run around.
Listen, it was not my most shining moment in life.
It's okay. Like you just said, a story to tell.
It is. And they called me Boots, and for good reason.
I mean, they're not lying. You did have boots. Not the kind that, you were supposed to have yet.
Nope. This was not combat boots. These were trendy boots. Okay.
Oh my gosh. What a fun experience. And then you have the whole basic training ahead of you. This is like just the beginning.
Oh yeah. That was just the beginning. And basic training, like I really just enjoyed it. It was and I knew it was something that was going to lead me into a lot of other things that I was looking for in life. Not just getting my student loans paid off, but I think the best thing that I could say about joining the military in general is just you really get to you're really surrounded by people from all over the country. And they, and you have to learn to work together, and you have to learn to accomplish the same mission together. And I think that there's a lot of beauty that can come out of that. And you know your own self, but you can learn from other people too. And I think that was one of the best things I could have come out with joining the military, is just really being around a whole bunch of people that are just from somewhere else, and they're used to doing certain things a certain way. You're used to doing a certain thing a certain way. And then you can kind of come together. And I think that just learning from other people is just such a big asset.
Well, I think that's like the biggest thing. And especially with basic training, they really try to instill that teamwork, mindset in you, that it's not just you. It is like the entire, that's where we got Army of One from. We're all one person working together to accomplish the same goal. And I think that, it speaks volumes for, yes, you as a service member, but then also your family as well. Like that is just, it bleeds out. And then as a military spouse, like you still have that kind of background of, it's not just me. Like there are so many different people going through this at the same time. And, us kids go through it too. Like, you get this whole like, mishmash pile of people from all over who have been through different cultures, within the United States, but then also around the world too. And it's the coolest thing on earth.
Yeah, I think exactly. You hit the nail on the head with that. And I think too, like now my husband is active duty, and for me having a lot of like just the lingo, the whole military language, like, and just like, because I think sometimes you don't know it until you live it, kind of thing. And, you can understand, but sometimes it's hard to know, unless you kind of like been in certain situations. And I think that it just really, it's been so good for our marriage. When he says certain things, it automatically computes. You know what I mean? And so I know that for me, it would be very difficult if I didn't kind of understand even the brotherhood that comes along with that. I mean, there's a brotherhood that comes along with being in the military, serving, alongside each other. And so fun fact too, I went to basic training August 7th of a year, and it's going to age me, but that's okay. We'll leave it there. And I went August 7th I went August 4th, and my husband finished officer candidate school August 7th. So we missed each other by 3 days.
Wow.
I had shipped off 3 days prior. I didn't get to go to all his graduation stuff, and that was real sad. I really hated that. I guess if I would have like told them I had a kidney stone, I probably could have, but
the whole world would have been different.
Yeah. But, I still wouldn't have got some of the other experiences that I had. But so we really missed each other by 3 days. But, so, and you may have some people listening in right now that, maybe their spouse is leaving soon, and they don't know really how to handle that, and I really think, the letters, I mean, I know it sounds so archaic, but the letters mean so much to the person that is in basic training, and just that communication, because you don't know what the outside world's doing. And, you still want to feel that comfort, and just that connection that that y'all are still together, even though you're apart, that was definitely a big thing for us. And, I think anytime you go through an absence, as a couple, we weren't married at the time, but as a couple, I think it really can bring you together as well.
Well, and, your phones are your connection to the outside world really nowadays. Like that's how you figure out what's going on. All the trends are on there. The news is on there, like literally everything. Your phone is your lifeline.
Yeah.
And 6 out of 7 days of the week, you don't have your phone. You don't have access to the
Mhm.
outside world. It's not like they roll a TV in, or you have a TV in your bay, like you can watch, or, you don't have iPads or computers or your phone. Like you're just there. And I'm looking at it at the sense of, okay, it's going to be nice to know not to know what's going on in the world for, 10 weeks. Like it's going to be nice. But at the same point then too, letters are your way of communication. So like, how am I going to know who's going to win the Super Bowl when I can't have my phone with me? So like, I'm going to need somebody to write that in a letter to have it delivered to me to read, and I'll be able to figure it out, like, the following Sunday or whatever. But like, letters are so important. And like, I'm the one here who have bought like 60 stamps already. And I'm like so excited to bring them with me to be able to write letters, knowing that I will probably not be able to write 60 letters while I'm gone. So like, so like, it's the fun thing of, yes, receiving the letter, but then also getting to write and, share all the fun experiences because yes, basic training is going to suck, but it's so much fun. That I've heard. So like, being able to document that journey and, tell everyone what you're up to too.
Yeah. And something for yourself too. And something that for you that you could do for yourself and something that I did for myself is somebody gave me a journal because I love to journal in general. It's just a natural thing that I do. And I still have my journal from basic training on all the different experiences that kind of meant a lot to me. That I would write down and then I could share because I didn't want to forget anything,
That's me.
Everything's so fleeting at times. And, and I really wanted to be able to take everything in and just to really look back on it because everything's happening so fast when you're in basic training, and I didn't want to forget, what big obstacle I was able to overcome. And, because they say, and the percentage has already changed by now, but they say only 1% of the population is in the military. I mean, that is very unique, y'all. Like this is it's a big deal to be able to commit yourself to something that is way bigger than you. And that can take you into so many different opportunities and obstacles and just anything. So documenting that in a journal was really, really awesome for me to kind of look back on because now I have children and now I can share that with them, especially if they decide to join. And it's been really awesome having like them now knowing that I was also in the military and some of the other things that I have accomplished for myself. They're like, oh, Mom, like, you're kind of cool. And I'm like, I am cool.
Thanks for acknowledging that too.
And so,
no, I love that because one of the things I was like, thinking of doing, because I didn't know if I could have like a journal with me, like a personal journal like that, but writing letters to myself and, sending them home. So then at the end of basic training, at the end of, all my graduations and stuff, I can be like, okay, here are all of these like sealed envelopes that contain everything that I just went through.
Yeah.
And now it's fun to like read them and because you forget a lot of stuff. Like you said, everything goes by quick. Like 10 weeks are going to go by in the snap of a finger. And you're going to forget those little moments of, maybe a conversation you had. Or a funny interaction you had with a drill sergeant or something like that. You're going to forget it. But if you write it down, that day or, maybe the next day even, it's like, okay, here are these memories and they're preserved, for your children, for, your spouse, for those memories that it's like, okay, no, like I actually did this. And, you can look back on that later and be like, okay, I just got through the hardest thing of my life.
Yeah.
Then you look back and you're like, oh, I did that. Like I can do anything.
That was a blip, But it's really fun to see that. And to your point, like going back to like a funny conversation or just one experience. Like in basic training in the DFAC where you get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That was the first time I ever tried cream of wheat. I'd never had cream of wheat before.
Yeah. And like, look at that. Now you have that first moment,
And somebody told me, they said, when you come back from basic training all your training in general, there is going to be a sound or a certain smell that you will never, ever be able to forget.
Yeah.
And so I will tell you that one smell, and you're going to think of me whenever this happens. I'm so excited. But one smell that I can never erase from my memory is whenever you open up the MREs and they have this pack in there that acts like a heater. And and you put water in there, if I remember correctly, you pour water in there and it somehow activates. It's like, it's super sciencey. Okay. And, and I just will never forget that smell. And I don't think it's a good smell, but I'll just,
it's ingrained in you forever now.
It is. And whenever you smell that smell, you're going to be like, Kasie, okay.
Yep. I know what you're talking about.
So you'll have a certain smell or a certain sound that you'll take with you for the rest of your life too.
Yeah. And that's like, those are the coolest experiences. Like those little things that it's just, you never would have thought of. And it's just like the most randomest thing ever that sticks with you literally forever. Yeah. And you're never going to forget, I'm sure you have that smell and then certain situations like associated with it that, maybe you don't want to remember, but you remember anyways.
Yes, that's so true. That is so true. Yeah, it's a slice of life, and it's such an honor to be able to say that I joined, because there's been nobody in my family that's ever joined. I just kind of, made my own path,
Yeah.
And it's been really good. And it's really good to show the kids too, that both parents have devoted a time in their life where, it was bigger than them, and where it is, you serve people. And I have a servant's heart, I don't think I've ever been in a job where I'm really not specifically serving people. I couldn't imagine being in a job where I'm not serving someone, Yeah.
And I think, it's so cool for, I cannot wait for my kids to be able to look back on it and be like, okay, hopefully maybe one of them decides to join one day, because I'm going to be 4th generation military and, predominantly Army. Like I only have one Navy in that path. But 4th generation military.
You don't talk to them, right?
No. Not at all. But it's just so cool to have that, like, generational, it's a tradition. It's a tradition.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's what it turns into.
Yes. I mean, I admire, you, I know you've told me your backstory, with your dad and, just some really unfortunate things and some awful things that happened. But for you to even want to continue to go, I think that just speaks volumes about you and your family,
Yeah. And that's what everyone has said, because, I wrote it off for the longest time. Like I always said, I saw the worst side of the military. I don't want to see it again. My mom always says she's, held every title. Like she does not want Gold Star to be added to that, so like it is a hard thing on the entire family, knowing that, such tragedy has happened, but such worse tragedy could also happen. And it's something that you never know. And it takes a lot of courage, because I say now that this dream has been 7 years in the making, since sophomore year of high school, when I'm like, okay, I want to go to West Point.
Yes.
And then, just kept writing it off. And it's like, okay, no, like this is it. And I think about most people when they do join the military, they get that this is it. This is what I want to do kind of sense, no matter if it's for the reason of like money or health insurance or, student loans or whatever. Like we all have a reasoning behind it.
Oh,
I think the biggest reasoning behind it for everyone is to serve, is to do something bigger than themselves.
Yes. And it gives you a sense of purpose.
Yes.
It really does. There is a guy on Instagram. I can't think of his name now, but anyways, I think he does a lot of like life coaching, business coaching, different things like that now. But he joined. He had always wanted to be special forces, and I think he was in his late 20s at the time. Gosh, I think his name's Chris Lee. I have to look him up. I don't know if you've heard of him before.
I have not.
I probably said his name wrong. I don't know. But I'm probably making stuff up. But anyways, he wanted to join later. I mean, he's always had this burning desire to serve and to join. And I think that if you never satisfy that, it's always going to keep coming back around. It's going to keep coming back around, and it's going to nudge you, and it's going to point at you. And then one day you're going to feel like you're in a spotlight. And when that happens, that is the time to do it. And I think that's whenever he felt like that too. I mean, because joining special forces in your late 20s, that's a huge deal. I mean, that is a very rigorous, very intense school. And there's a high dropout rate,
right.
And a lot of people just don't get selected in general. And so it sounds like that's been the same thing for you too. It's just something that has been nudging you. And I don't think it would ever go away if you didn't try for it. So good for you for listening.
Yeah, that's what I kept telling myself. I was like, I don't want to be, 36 years old, past the age cutoff, looking back and going, I should have done that. Like, why didn't I do that? And so now it's like, okay, like, here's the time, out of college, like, here's the time, take the leap and go for it. And if 4 years come around and I'm like, I'm done.
Yep.
Big deal. I'm done. Like, that's that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome. And anybody that ever wants to ever talk about, or if there's somebody listening that, is, hey, like I have a spouse in, and maybe I'm thinking about joining, if anybody ever wants to like talk about that, and just let me know. I'd be happy to do that. Cause it is nice knowing both sides.
Yes.
It's nice. Yeah. It's nice knowing both sides. I didn't serve as a military child, I mean, that's another service in itself. And I didn't, but right now I think it's hard too, though, like having to, my oldest one has now kind of picked up on the fact that, hey, we move like every 3 years. Oh. Maybe there's like a 4-year, and that's like that's like a good thing, at times. And so it's been, interesting bringing in all those conversations, but I think they really respect it. And I bet that's how you feel too.
Oh, for sure. Because, there are times where it's like, okay, this sucks. This is the hardest thing. Yeah. And I think no matter if you're a service member, spouse, child, anything, like you go through that.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, here's the cool things you get from it. And then you have so much admiration for your service member. And then, even your parent who's not serving, like you have so much admiration for the entire family that it's like, we all do our part, and we all have to do our part.
You have to. It's just it's a big commitment for everybody, even your outside family. They're not able to see you all the time, but now you have friends all over the world.
And that's the best part. That's what I'm so looking forward to.
I know, you have friends everywhere, and there's sometimes I'll be like, if we go to, I don't know, Maryland. Okay. Now I know somebody in Maryland,
Yeah.
that I otherwise wouldn't know.
Yeah. And that's the best part. Like, I have rarely had to pay for hotel rooms because I always know someone there. Yes. And that's just, you talk about that brotherhood. That's the community. That's the brotherhood of, oh, you're in the area? Cool. Like, come stay with me. Like, let's hang out. I'll show you around. And you might not be there for, more than a day or so, but, that's just the way it is.
Right. Yes, I agree. There's beauty in all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last thing I want to ask you, and you can, because you've seen all, so much of it, take it in whatever direction you want, but what piece of advice would you give?
I think that anywhere you end up, if you're active duty or wherever you are in the military has a big presence in your life, I think that number one, always try to love anywhere you are. There's going to be some things you don't like, and because you're human, there's going to be things you don't like, but there's going to be things that you love, and and when you find yourself in those positions where you have things where the things you don't like outweigh the things that you love, stick and hone into the things that you're really loving about that, because that's going to keep you grounded. It's going to keep you focused on what's really, really important.
Absolutely. No, 100%. And then where can listeners connect with you? Because we didn't even touch on this, but you have your own podcast too. And so much.
I know, we were having such a good time. So
for real.
So I have a podcast called Gather the Scattered. The name speaks for itself. We're all scattered all over the U.S., really all over the world. And so I have that, where I can help you transition into a new community and help you find your people along the way. I do have a lot of episodes that are just myself where I'm giving advice, but I also have a lot of guests on, and you were part of one of those episodes. So y'all go check that out too. I think it was episode number 45. And so, so I definitely check that out. And so that's my podcast. And then my social media accounts are We Are the Scattered.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I loved hearing so much of your military journey. And, here you are today. And I'm just so grateful to have had you on the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you for listening to Grace of a Military Child and Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, follow, and comment. Also, be sure to check out Instagram and Facebook at Grace of a Military Child and Life for more awesome content. For information on the podcast, Military Child Bigs and Littles, GoAMCL blog, or other resources, visit www.goamcl.org. You can also email me at Gracie, that's GRACIE @GOAMCL.org with any questions or comments. To be a guest on the podcast, you can schedule it at www.goamcl.org/schedule a podcast, all one word, or contact me via social media or email. Stay tuned for the next episode where another incredible story is shared.